Good morning. I'm Fundo Mabalane. You're watching South African Morning. I'm standing in for my lovely colleagues Tumelo and Gareth. You would have seen Gareth a bit earlier. He's driving around in an electric car for us this morning. But let's give you our top story now. The second witness will continue testifying in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial today. The former Bafana and Orlando Pirates captain was killed back in 2014. eNCA Silindelo Masikane is covering that story for us and joins us now. Good morning, Silindelo. What an interesting day. The second witness has held no punches. I'm sure you've even seen on social media many people talking about the very tense mood inside the courtroom yesterday. Just give us a recap of what happened.
Well, yesterday we saw the second state witness taking to the witness box, and that is Sergeant Patrick Mthethwa. What's interesting about Sergeant Mthethwa is that, unlike Sergeant Mosia, who arrived, according to him, 4 hours after the crime had actually occurred, Mthethwa forms one of two police officers who was actually first on the scene. He was on duty alongside Sergeant Matebula on the 26th of October 2014 at the Force police station, and they got the call about a shooting in progress at around 5 to 9 that evening. The police station, we understand, isn't too far from Nomzamo Street where the shooting occurred, and it took them about 10 minutes to get there. What's interesting also is that Sergeant Mthethwa says that when they arrived, they found a gentleman who called himself Temba, said he was the uncle, the brother to Khumalo's mother, saying that in fact he was also just called here and asked to essentially just guard the house, and those who were in the house had actually proceeded to the hospital. Mthethwa described what he saw when they did arrive at the house, and he says it really didn't look like anything had happened, which confused them, and which is why they proceeded then to the hospital to try and find those who were in the house. He says when they left, they were met by neighbors who said that they had seen two people running towards the park, which is down the road. But he says that when they went past the park, they didn't see anything. They returned to the house after going to the hospital with Khumalo's mother. Mthethwa confirming actually that he had seen Meyiwa's body inside the hospital, that there was a gunshot wound to his chest, and that when they had returned to the house, that is when then Khumalo's mother explained exactly what had happened, and only then, from coming back from the hospital, was the crime scene actually cordoned off with the crime scene tape. And he says that they didn't do it the first time around because they didn't understand exactly what had happened and where.
But that particular question was one that became some sort of a back and forth along or at least the securing of the crime scene. And he stressed that according to him, he didn't know what kind of crime had been committed there, and that's why they had rushed to hospital. Talk to us about how critical it is to secure the crime scene, or at least according to experts.
So from what we understand, that is one of the most critical exercises that need to happen ahead of forensics arriving, is to ensure that there's nobody that is contaminating the crime scene, that everything is preserved as it is. But it seems that even before Sergeant Mthethwa as well as his colleague Sergeant Matebula could arrive, it seems that already the crime scene had some movement already. We know that Temba, who is the uncle, was was asked to secure the house. He had the key, so we don't know what happened before Sergeant Mthethwa as well as Sergeant Matebula arrived at the crime scene. We don't know what transpired. But let's just take a listen to what one legal expert had to say with regards to securing a crime scene.
The reason for that is the moment we deal with evidence like forensics, ballistics, fingerprints, when you deal with those sort of evidence, it's important that that evidence be contained at the crime scene in a pristine condition. The moment you allow people to walk over the crime scene, to enter the crime scene, it contaminates the crime scene. If I, for argument's sake, walk over the crime scene, and let's say in this instance they would have realized it's a crime scene because a person had been killed, they ought to have immediately secured the area. They ought to have made sure that nobody enters or leaves the building, that the area is cordoned off, so that when the forensics arrive there and they, for argument's sake, find blood spatter, or they find, for argument's sake, a cigarette butt, or they try and lift fingerprints, that we can say that that fingerprint or blood spatter or DNA evidence that they extract from a cigarette butt, that evidence was for sure left by the people who were at the crime scene at the time when the crime was committed.
So judging by what this expert is saying, clearly there was merit in spending a lot of time around this particular aspect of having secured the crime scene. Silindelo, we'll leave it there for now and catch up with you a bit later on in the day. That's reporter Silindelo Masikane, who continues to monitor the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial.